Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. In our previous explainer, we built up some solid intuition for load distribution. But today, we're shifting gears completely. We're looking at exactly how to prepare your ENS names for the strict, unforgiving world of smart contracts. And let me just warn you right up front, smart contracts have absolutely zero sense of humor. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth do smart contracts absolutely panic over a single uppercase letter? Well, think about human-facing wallets for a second. They're incredibly gracious, right? You accidentally capitalize a letter, maybe add a weird extra space. They just politely figure it out behind the scenes. But smart contracts, they act like rigid, literal sorting machines. If an input isn't cryptographically perfect down to the exact byte, they don't try to guess, they just break. So to prevent a total runtime disaster, we need a solid blueprint. Today, we're going to hit 5 key areas. First, clients versus smart contracts. Second, choosing your ENS resolver. Third, maintaining clean ENS records. Fourth, normalizing names with UTS-46. And finally, getting ready for contract integration. Let's dive right in. All right, Section 1, clients versus smart contracts. There is just a massive, stark contrast between these two environments. On one side, you have human UIs. These are forgiving. They use client-side heuristics, basically smart guesswork to smooth over our human typos. On the other side, smart contracts are completely deterministic. They are literal. They rely entirely on exact bytes. The big takeaway here? You absolutely must translate your messy, human-friendly ENS setups into guaranteed, machine-readable data before you even think about integrating. Which brings us to Section 2, choosing your ENS resolver. So what exactly is a resolver? Simply put, it's a smart contract that maps a digital identifier known as a namehash to specific records. This could be cryptocurrency addresses, text metadata, or content hashes. Think of the resolver as your ultimate, unquestionable digital switchboard. Your contract's behavior completely depends on it. If your contract asks for an address and the resolver isn't built to provide one, the whole operation just halts right there. Let's walk through the exact on-chain path your code is going to follow. Step 1. Compute the name hash. Your contract takes the human name and turns it into a strict cryptographic ID. Step 2. Read from the ENS registry. It asks the main registry, hey, who's in charge of this ID? And Step 3. Interrogate the resolver. It goes to that specific resolver and asks for the records. It's a very literal, step-by-step digital scavenger hunt. To put this into perspective, let's look at a few scenarios. If your goal is payment routing, you'd use a standard resolver to pull standard address records. What about on-chain metadata? For that, you'd interrogate a public or custom resolver for a content hash. And for contract config flags, you're going to need a custom resolver using highly specific namespaced text keys. You really can't mix and match here. Different goals require entirely different resolver types to survive. Okay, moving right along to Section 3, maintaining clean ENS records. Now, if you're the type of person whose computer desktop is just a chaotic mess of random files, this step might be a bit of a wake-up call. When preparing for integration, your record hygiene has to be absolutely pristine. We are aiming for deterministic on-chain reads, meaning literally no guesswork. You need explicit governance and ownership, plus minimal off-chain transformation and strict namespacing for text keys. Simply put, your smart contract needs to verify exact values without relying on fragile off-chain assumptions. Let's look at a real-world example of this. Take a generic key like info versus a namespaced key like integrations.mycontract.v1. If you just use info, a clumsy user interface might accidentally overwrite it simply because it's way too broad. But a namespaced key, that acts like a protective, collision-proof vault for your specific data. It strips away all the ambiguity. All right, Section 4. Normalizing names with UTS-46. This is where we address the absolute chaos of Unicode characters. UTS-46 is a standard normalization process. It ensures that visually similar string inputs are systematically converted into one identical standardized format. Think of it as a completely ruthless spelling and grammar teacher that your ENS name has to face before it ever touches a smart contract. Got a capitalized A, an E with a weird accent? UTS-46 flattens it all out so it's perfectly uniform. Here's how that pipeline actually flows. First, you start with your raw input. This is the messy human part, like example.eth with an umlaut. Second, it gets shoved through UTS-46 canonicalization, flattening out any of those weird characters into a perfectly canonical string. And finally, we've run a computation on that clean string. We go from chaotic human input right into a pristine, standardized format. And that brings us to the final result of that computation, the namehash. This is a Ketchik-based algorithm that acts kind of like a cryptographic blender. It turns a human-readable name into a deterministic 32-byte digital barcode. And here is the kicker. This 32-byte barcode is literally the only thing the smart contract truly understands. If your off-chain code and your on-chain consumers aren't using the exact same normalization rules to get this exact same barcode, your lookup will fail. It is completely non-negotiable. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Ready for Contract Integration. Let's do a quick recap of your survival checklist. First, always verify your resolver preconditions. Second, make sure you store your canonical string and namehash in your deployment notes. You want your whole team on the exact same page. Third, separate your critical delegations. Keep public data totally isolated from contract-critical records to prevent nasty runtime surprises. And lastly, document your caching behaviors, because while smart contracts read instantly, off-chain caches absolutely do not. So if you only take away one thing from this entire explainer, let it be this. Transform human ambiguity into auditable, deterministic inputs. Preparing an ENS name isn't just administrative busywork. It's entirely about stripping away human unpredictability so the literal, unforgiving machine can do its job safely. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Is your canonicalized namehash actually ready to be plugged into on-chain resolution logic? Really think about that, because in our next explainer, we're diving right into the actual smart contract coding using these exact principles. I highly encourage you to visit forge.college to continue your Web3 learning journey and dive deeper into all this stuff. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.